You are listening to The Winningest with Adam Wins. Intelligent information from those that have achieved the highest levels of success to become the winningest in wellness and wealth. Bringing you the winningest from around the globe to help you get to the highest levels of winning to become the winningest in everything you do. Leading the way to the winningest to get you the winningest levels in your wellness and wealth. Winningest with Adam Wins.
Hey, it's Adam Wins. This is The Winningest Show, and I'm here today with you all because we're all the winningest. And right now, we're going through some very strange times. I haven't been with you since, I believe, before the pandemic. I've been doing some soul searching of my own, trying to figure out really what's going on and why things are happening. This is what being the winningest is all about. It's about knowing yourself. And I've taken some time to really do some deep meditation and some deep introspection. So the one thing that I've realized from this entire process is that all of us, 99.99% of us, do not know the difference between right and wrong. Okay, so we've all been under house arrest for, let's say, the past 4 to 5 years, or 4 to 5 months, sorry. Since before January, since December-ish. And it's been a very tough process for a lot of us to get accustomed to having to stay at home, to having to change their life, to not having their business, and not having the right to the freedoms that they once enjoyed. Okay, so a lot of what has been going on and what is going on is just about right and wrong and knowing what your rights are. See, let's get to the basis of what a right is. Most people do not know what rights are or where they come from or what they're about. Okay, there's this thing, natural law. Natural law comes from the creator of the universe, from God, from Shiva, from whatever you want to believe is that all being, the creator. Okay? There's some mathematics involved, and generally it comes down to this one thing, which is, the law of cause and effect. And in that law of cause and effect, we also have the golden rule, which is, do not treat other people the way you wouldn't want to be treated. So do not treat other people the way that you wouldn't want to be treated. Okay? So if any situation you wouldn't want someone's knee on your neck, do not put your knee on someone else's neck. Plain and simple. Okay? If you don't want your house burned down and looted and burnt, then don't do it. Okay? But it goes a little further than that into the difference between right and wrong. So I'm going to ask you this question right now. What is the difference between right and wrong? Answer it for yourself right now in your head. Do you know the answer to the difference between right and wrong? Many will say, oh, yeah, one's good, one is bad. Well, what we're talking about here is natural law, okay, which is God's law. The difference in God's law versus statutory law, where people make statutes and requirements of a social contract that they create for you. Those are things like speeding, for example. Okay, speeding. Is it right or wrong? It's right. Break statutory law because some man somewhere said, I define the law that man is allowed to go as fast as a certain amount. You're only allowed to go this far, this fast, because I say so. And when you do not, or when you do go faster than that, you are wrong. And then you're going to be wronged even further. Now, we'll get back into that a little bit more about what the difference between right and wrong is. So the first thing you have to know is what a right is. Now, the Constitution does not guarantee you any rights, okay? All rights, we were all born equal with equal rights. All rights come from the Creator. All rights come from God. They are all natural, Okay? Natural means from God. Okay? You can go down to words have meanings, and what does the word natural mean? Natur, it comes from back in the Egyptian words where it means the creator or God or spirit. Okay? It comes from something greater than ourselves. And al means from. So natural means from the creator. Okay? That's where natural law comes from. Natural law is the law. Okay? That is the most important law. And that's the law of karma or cause and effect. And the golden rule: do not treat others the way that you don't want people to treat you or that you don't want to be treated. Okay? Don't do to something else that you wouldn't want done to you. Plain and freaking simple. You follow that rule, there are no problems. But first, you have to know the difference between right and wrong. So what is the definition of right? I will be very clear with you really quickly. It's not hard to understand. It's not hard to grasp. A right is an action. A right is an action that causes no harm. No harm to others. Okay? A right is an action that causes no harm to others. So speeding, does that cause harm to others? It does not. Now, can it, under certain circumstances, cause harm to others? Yes. Okay? But it has to happen. Okay? It has to cause harm for someone else to be a wrong. So the difference is an action. A wrong. The difference between right and wrong is an action that causes harm to someone else. That is a wrong. Okay? Two wrongs do not equal a right. It's impossible. That is a false sense of knowledge. It's false information. Two wrongs do not equal right. It's impossible. Because you can't do two things that harm people and turn that into something right, that harm others. Any living being, okay? That's an animal or a human, okay? Now, let's get a little deeper into harm, okay? What is harm? First off, we have harm. Number one, we have murder, okay? Doesn't say we shouldn't kill. It says we shouldn't murder, okay? That's in the Bible. That's in the Talmud. That's in all these religious books. Do not murder, okay? Now, what does that mean? Do not go out with harm to do it to somebody else, okay? It's an action that you take away, okay? All harmful actions are theft, okay? In the case of murder, the theft is the theft of life, okay? You steal the life and breath from someone else, okay? Now, where's the exception? Where's the exception? The exception is that if someone is coming to wrong you, it's your right, the action, to stop it, okay? So if someone is trying to murder you first, okay, they always say in school, well, it doesn't matter who started this. I'm going to finish it, and you both were involved. No, that's not the way right and wrong works. Right and wrong works comes from the first action of a harmful action. Now, if you have to defend yourself and kill another person because they're trying to murder you, that is not wrong. That's a right. Okay? Now, the second wrong is rape. Okay? That is sexual aggressiveness, sexual harm to someone else. You are stealing. Again, theft. All wrongs are a theft. You are stealing their right to their own sexual use, okay? Their own sexual being. You're violating their permission, their freedom to exercise their body the way that they want to exercise it, okay? Now, you've got theft, which is the main thing, okay? That's a main wrong. That's when you set out to harm somebody and you steal something away from them, okay? Theft, okay? Theft is the root of all harm, and that is the root of all wrong and right, is theft. Murder, rape, theft. It's all theft. You're stealing something from another person. You take it away. And that's harmful. Okay? That's harmful. So we're going to get into this a little bit more because there's a couple other things here. We have coercion. It's when you force someone to do something against their will. You're taking away their freedom. Okay? You're forcing them down. Very bad form of theft. And then trespass. When you go into someone's home or into their property, into their car, into their pockets, stop and frisk. You are stealing from them. You are stealing their security, their mental state of comfort. You are stealing when you trespass against someone else. Okay? Trespassing against someone else. Okay? Now here's the problem. Most people, especially in the execution of their duties, especially people with statutory authority, they don't know the difference between wrong and right. Again, wrong is a harmful act, an action that causes harm to another being, human or animal. This harm is rape, murder, coercion, theft, trespass. So if it's your job to frisk somebody, to stop and frisk, and that's your job, you are wrong. It's natural law. You are wronging another person. You are stealing away their freedom to walk freely down the street. Now, if they are harming somebody else, you're right. If their actions are harming somebody else, you have the right to intervene. You're right. But not if there's no harmful action. Not if there's no harmful action. You do not have the right to stop someone on the street and frisk them because you think something may be going on, because it may lead to another action. Okay? This goes much deeper in our society of statutory wrongs. Okay? Let's talk about drunk driving. Is it smart to do? No. It's stupid. Because it could lead to a harmful action. Okay? Your likelihood of it leading to a harmful action is greater. I mean, you can't get into a bar fight if you never enter a bar. As soon as you enter a bar, the likelihood of you getting into a bar fight increases simply by being in a bar. But it does not mean that you are creating harm. It doesn't mean that you are wrong. You're not wrong until you execute and take action upon someone else in a harmful way and strike that person in the bar fight. Then you are wrong. So, drunk driving is not a harmful action. Can it have harmful consequences? Yes. Can it have wrong consequences? Yes. Where you are wrong, when you actually commit the act of murdering somebody else by your harmful action. When you drink and you drive and you murder, that's a harmful action. Now, the prevention, the statutory prevention through taking away rights. Okay, again, rights are given to us. Natural rights are given to us by God, by the Creator, not by man. The Constitution only is there and designed to be helpful to enforce our natural rights. Our natural rights. Okay, it is a document. It is the statute of our Constitution, the statute of our government, that we have a social contract with them, that we will pay you tax dollars so that you will help enforce natural law. Yet they've taken it to the extreme and they've increased the enforcement of statutory law. So again, when is drinking and driving wrong? When it causes harm. Okay? If you drive home from your house and you are drinking and driving and you make it from that bar to your house, are you stupid? Yes, you are stupid. But you're not wrong. It's within your rights. Until such time that you harm someone else. And that is the only way when you commit harm that someone, anyone, any statutory enforcer has the right to intervene. Now, the problem with our society right now is there's so much pre-intervention. There is so much we can predict that this person is going to do this. Bullshit. Okay? And I will tell you this, that the amount of people that die from drunk driving is a very small amount compared to the people who are what? The first thing they do is they're stopped in their vehicle by a police officer for suspected drunk driving. Is that wrong or right? It's wrong. Because their right to freedom to drive down the street was just stolen by that officer of the law. Stolen. Okay, theft. Again, the difference between wrong and right, the underlying, the most determining factor in this is theft. Okay, stole his time, stole his freedom, stole his security of whatever it may be at that period in time. Okay, and then let's say this person is determined to be drunk. They still cause no one any harm except for themselves. And there's no law that stops you from harm from yourself. This has to do with your social contract with the world, with others, your contract with God towards others. Okay? Now, in that same circumstance, you have to think golden rule, karma, all these different things. Would you, as someone trained as an officer, see, officers, the whole problem with this whole thing that's blowing up right now with the riots and everything else is that nobody knows the difference between wrong and right. And they're not taught. They're not taught at the academy the difference between wrong and right. They're taught to enforce statutory laws. And they're not taught to protect the rights that taxes are given that are paid for this enforcement. Okay, the government has been given this authority to protect our rights. But those rights aren't given by the government. They can't give you something. We are all born with equal rights. We are all born equal, right and wrong. We all have the choice to harm someone or not. It's an action is right or wrong depends on the harm. Depends on the theft that happens to another being. If there's no theft, there is no violation of the law. There's no violation of the law. If there's no murder, if there's no rape, if there's no coercion, if there's no trespass, if there's no theft, there's no harm. That means there's no wrong. Okay? And that's what we've gotten into in this whole society, is that we are statutory, behavioral. If you don't like what I'm doing, fuck you. If I'm not hurting you, okay? If you don't like my plaid shirt, say I don't like people with plaid shirts, who cares? It's not against natural law. It doesn't harm anyone else. Okay? Doesn't harm anyone else. Now, free speech, yeah, I have the right to say that. Do I have the right to say hurtful things to you that's going to cause harm to you? No. Okay, that's the difference in the free speech kind of thing. You do not have the right to harmfully speak to other people. Okay, so the difference between right and wrong. Do you get it yet? Do you get it? No harm. So we spoke about drunk driving. Is it dumb? Yes. Is it wrong? No. How about standing on somebody's neck? Goes against the golden rule. Drunk driving goes against the rule. You wouldn't want someone else driving on the same road as you that was drunk. Okay, it increases your odds of having a wrong done to you, right? It increases your odds. But there's no harm, there's no foul. The same thing with the knee on your neck, right? It's not really a wrong until harm is committed. Now, the harm started already. The harm started from the moment that you take a person out of their state of freedom, out of their right to freedom, their right to enjoyment, their right to actively be themselves out in the world, not causing harm to others. That's when the first wrong happens. And that first wrong is always critical. Okay. That first wrong is extremely critical. Now, why is this a firestorm and why is things blown up lately? Well, the reason is simple. Your rights have been stolen by the government. And not even necessarily by our own government, but by the Chinese government, who have wronged us from the beginning by bringing us a plague, a disease. They have harmed us, and quite possibly intentionally. Their actions have caused harm to another human being, intentional or otherwise. It's wrong. And now we've been on house arrest for going on 5 months. Our freedoms of movement, our freedoms of work, our freedoms to provide livings, to provide security for our families have been stolen away from us. Our government's been complicit in it. Okay? They have not stopped the harm. They have executed statutory infringements of our rights for the protection of us, so in case we don't get hurt. So this lockdown is the same exact thing. The same exact thing, okay? And the same exact thing as DUI lockdowns and checkpoints. The lockdown is the same as a DUI checkpoint. Why? Because a crime has not been committed, okay? No one has gotten sick or died. You're not sick and you're locked down, okay? Now, if you're already sick and you're infecting other people, you have harmed others. Okay? Simple. It's wrong. It's wrong. If you're not sick, you can't harm anybody else. So there's no right for your rights to be trampled on. You are right until you become wrong and harm someone else. Now, if you get sick, yes, lockdown makes sense, but that's the difference between right and wrong. And what we've been doing is taking away the rights to to go after the wrongs. But most people do not realize the difference between right and wrong. And again, I'm going to reiterate this for you. The difference, a right, being right, okay? Moral is being in the right, okay? There's not a right and a left. There's a right and a wrong, and that's all there is in life. Everything is either right or it's wrong, okay? And it also has to be an action, which means it's present tense, not a past, okay? Something happened in the past, okay? It is not an action right now causing harm. I mean, you could have caused an action to someone in harm, and yes, if you murdered someone in the past, you committed a wrong. You did, and they should come after you for it. And that you should be stripped of some of your rights. That's what a punishment is. It's stripping you of your rights. And again, a DUI checkpoint, or even being punished for a DUI. No harm is caused. Now, if you hurt someone else in the process, if you crash into a human and you kill them, that's wrong. It is. If you drive home, you make it successfully to your house, not wrong. If you get stopped by the police, not wrong. They're wrong. They're wrong. They took away your right to the freedom of your travel, the right to the freedom to use your car, to enforce their statutory laws, because they simply do not know the difference between right and wrong. They simply do not know the difference between right and wrong. So we have another issue of stop and frisk. Now, nothing could be more wrong than something called stop and frisk. All this predictive behavior, okay, it does nothing. It does nothing other than perpetuate and create statutory wrongs, okay? Because you're once the system, which the system is created, it's wrong. The system is wrong simply because it causes harm. Okay. Now, you're driving down the street. Okay. Now, let's say another way to drive down the street is without shoes on. Okay. It's stupid to drive without shoes because you can drive better with shoes. It's stupid to drive with alcohol, but, people do it. But it's not wrong until there's harm. Now, somebody without shoes can cause harm and hurt somebody, and at that point is when punishment should be initiated. Not because they're not driving without shoes, or not because they're driving with alcohol in their system. It's not right. I don't believe in alcohol. Alcohol is bad. It suppresses people and makes them worse. But that's not my decision to make. That's the actual person's choice in if they want to make themselves worse or harm themselves, that's their choice. But once they harm somebody else, that's when it becomes wrong. And as soon as you interfere as a human, okay, you can't say, I'm just doing my job, sir. Just doing my job, ma'am. I just stopped you because I'm doing my job. Bullshit. You stopped them because you have bad teachers, and those bad teachers don't know the difference between wrong and right. And you are effectively wronging another in the karmic law sense of the word, the natural law, okay? The consequential cause and effect, the law of cause and effect, the natural law. You are wronging other people. It's not right. You cannot do it. And we have all these systemic problems with the world simply because we have bad teachers that don't teach anyone. And nobody knows the difference between wrong and right. Just doing your job is not right. There's a right way to do your job and a wrong way to do your job. Okay, so there's plenty of people out there that know the difference between right and wrong. Most don't. Most don't understand that there has to be the element of action and there has to be the element of harm. Okay? It's impossible. So, looters, rioters, two wrongs don't make it right. You cannot go and steal from somebody to make some other action right or get justice or whatever it may be. It does not equal. Okay? I understand that many people feel helpless and they don't have control, but we don't have control. There is a natural law given to us from the Creator, given to us from God. It's something that we cannot change. It is what it is. There is a wrong and there is a right. There is no in between. And you can't make wrongs into rights. Because we all have rights. We're all born with same and equal rights. Okay? And we're all infringed upon our rights every single day. And that needs to stop. And that's the change. That is the change that we need to see. We need to see everyone wake the frick up. Okay? Wake up and see the difference between wrong and right. Okay? In every situation of your life, you need to determine, and do not take action that causes harm to another, and do not treat other people, do not cause other people harm the way that you would not want harm caused to you. So if you're peacefully smoking weed, is it right or is it wrong to be put in jail? Legal or illegal, according to statutory law? Would you, the person putting that person in jail, want that to happen to you? God's law, the higher law, the natural law. God created this law. Don't treat other people the way that you don't want to be treated. Would you want to be locked up in jail for years and years and years for smoking a substance that doesn't cause anyone any harm, other than possibly yourself? I'm not saying to smoke it or not smoke it. I'm not for marijuana or against marijuana. I'm just saying the facts of right and wrong. Think about it. Let that sink in to your little pea brains. You're taught wrong, because most of what you're taught is to take away people's rights. You are not taught the difference between wrong and right. You are taught to wrong. Yeah, you are. And it's a hard thing to admit. It's a hard thing for us all to admit as a society that most of us are taught wrong. That we don't know the difference between wrong and right. And many of our actions that we once deemed as wrong were right. And many of the actions that we once deemed as right are actually wrong. And it's not that hard to see. We've been given these rules. We know these rules. And it's just a matter of taking action on them and being within our rights. And the only thing within our rights is to cause no harm, which means do no theft. Okay? No theft, no harm. Simple. 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 Come on, people, wake up. Wake up. I'm Adam Wins. This is The Winningest. Learn right from wrong. Teach your kids right from wrong. And when you see wrong, stand up for right. Okay? Teach people. Okay? If everybody goes around teaching people the difference between wrong and right, teaching people they're right. We don't need all these people to help enforce our rights. Okay? Because people are acting right. If you start acting right, everything's right again. You understand? It's all about knowing the meanings of words, right and wrong. What does that mean? Now you know. Do you hear me? Do you understand? You have to start taking action and teaching other people these simple steps. Okay? So, to all my black friends out there, you've been wronged. Really? No, you haven't been wronged. Was one guy wronged? Yes. Have you been wronged in your life? Yes, probably have. So have I. So is probably everybody out there. Okay? Your reaction to it doesn't make it right. Okay? If your action causes harm to another, doesn't make it right. Now, if your action is then to go teach other people the difference between wrong and right, the looters did the opposite of teaching the difference between wrong and right. They went and stole because they've been stolen from. Two wrongs do not make a right. Two wrongs can never make a right. They're fools in not understanding God's law. They do not understand natural law. They will have a big cause and effect for what they've done. They wouldn't want somebody to steal from them. They wouldn't want the police to go into their house and steal their things. But, oh, they did it to one person. We wanted to stop, so you have to do this. No, you don't. You have to teach and you have to educate those who don't know the difference between wrong and right, the difference between wrong and right. You can be right in every situation. You can do it. We all have that opportunity. We're all born with equal rights. Black, white, yellow, brown, green, purple. Doesn't fucking matter. Now, do some people get picked on more than others? Yep, they do. Yes, they do. They get wronged way more than others at higher degrees. Does that change the difference between wrong and right? Nope. You first have to change wrong and right, not the degrees at which people are affected and the percentages that people are wrongs. Okay? You need to start doing more right and less wrong. Everybody. And if everybody did that, if everybody followed the golden rule and treated other people, or let's say didn't treat other people the way that they didn't want to be treated. Okay? You don't treat people the way that you don't want to be treated. Simply put, simply said, it's the Globus Church of Wealth and Wellness Trust right here. Okay? That's what this whole thing is about. That's what everything we're going through. That's what this whole mess was about. Okay? Getting back, it's not about who can get so much money. It's not about who can get so many things. It's about staying within your rights and being right and having the knowledge of what that means. So that's the difference between nescient and ignorant, right? So I'm telling you all this. Now you know. You have knowledge. You not acting on that knowledge is ignorant. That means ignoring. Ignorant. You're ignoring the knowledge that you now have. You now know the difference between right and wrong, and it is your obligation to share this message, to share the difference of right and wrong, and tell as many people as you can. You locally must educate your police department. You must educate your law enforcement. You must educate your governess. Your governess in the difference between right and wrong. Now, is all these victimless crimes of people in jail right? It ain't right. Free the damn people that are in there for drug offenses that didn't harm another human being except themselves. The DUIs, all this stuff in the system needs to stop, and it needs to stop right now. No harm, no foul. It's not wrong. It is not wrong without a harm. If you did some action, you caused some harm, you get consequences to pay. Okay? You just have to pay the consequence. And most of those consequences are from natural law. The law of cause and effect. If you do bad things come back to you. It is karma. It happens. And everybody in the world sees it, knows it. It's natural law. It's the way that it works. We don't need over enforcement of natural law. Okay? You don't need to smack a guy when he's down. It doesn't need to be done. But we do have the obligation here to stand up for right versus wrong. Okay? This is not black versus white. There is no black versus white. Okay? Segregation is a voluntary thing. If you see black versus white and you're black, you're wrong there. Because you're creating harm for others. Okay? What we need to be doing is uniting all people. We're all humans. We all fall under the natural law. There is no difference of natural law for Ethiopians, and there's no difference from the natural law of Indonesians, and there is no difference between the natural law of Dutch. The Creator sees us all as one. We are all one. It's when you choose to start segregating yourself and saying, I am black, I am white, I am this nation, I am that nation. That's when you're starting it. You're starting that action. And you're starting that action of the way you want to be treated. So if you stand up and say, I am black, or I am white, or I am gray, just say I'm gray. And I believe because I am gray, this, and this. Well, by being gray, I'm separating myself from the blacks and from the whites. And I'm taking an action. And that action is separating myself from others in a harmful way. Okay? Because we're all humans here. And we need to realize that. And we need to treat other people the way that we expect to be treated in all ways. Always. There's no exception to the rule. There is no exception to the rule of wrong and right. There is no exception to the golden rule. There is no exception to the law of cause and effect. These are all laws. Okay? There's nothing you can do to change them. There's nothing you can do to interpret them. They are all defined before any of us ever got here by the Creator, by God. So, it's up to you. Nescient is something, it's a word, and it means you just don't have the knowledge. Nobody ever told you. Okay? And maybe up until this point you were nescient. You didn't know the difference between wrong and right. You didn't know that it had to be an action that caused harm. Maybe you didn't know. Now you know. And ignorance is when you know it, as you do now, and you don't do anything about it. When you don't change your actions and force other people to change theirs. Okay? There's a difference between force and violence. Violence is causing harm. Force is right. And that's when you know you're right and you have the knowledge and you force others to accept it. Because there is no dispute in natural law. There is no dispute in wrong from right. There simply just is wrong or right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I so want you to be the winningest. I so want you to have it all. I so want you to be healthy and wealthy and wise. And it all breaks down to the golden rule and to knowing the difference between wrong and right. Will you be stupid and still do stupid things? Yep, we all will. Will we sometimes eat the wrong foods and drink the wrong drinks? We will. Will we have the wrong opinions and think the wrong things? At times. Sure. But we need to know and we need to move forward in the difference between wrong and right and move away from ignorance to knowledge. To knowledge. You know it now. Now act on it. Go and act right. Act right. Act right. It's your rights. Act right. I'm Adam Wins. This is the winningest. Act right. Have a good one.